This video features the guitar and bass parts that are present during the choruses of the song. The tuning used in this video and on the record is E flat and 440 wavelength calibration. If you're unsure how to tune E flat, please watch the video on this channel, E flat tuning and enharmonic notes for guitar and bass by Marc Wilson, and then return. The supporting guitar part is going to play a 4-measure long pattern that's going to repeat itself 4 times. We're going to start out by playing an open E5 power chord. Place your first finger on the A and D strings at the 2nd fret to bar them. We're going to let these 2 notes ring out, but we're going to lay the finger kind of flat on the G, B, and high E strings just to deaden them out so they don't sound. We're going to pick this down on 1 and allow it to ring out for 7/8 of the first measure. On the final and beat of the measure, right after 4, we're going to play a G5 chord. For those that don't know how to do the G5, it's just like playing the G major. What I did was pick the first finger up. As I picked it up, I'm laying that middle finger just a little bit flatter, just enough to touch the A string so it doesn't sound out. I'm going to pick that string so you can see what I mean. Okay, you see how it's kind of clicking? The other 5 strings are going to ring when we play this. With a 4-count lead in, this is what the first measure is going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Okay, we're going to let this ring out for 7/8 of the next measure too, which will be a whole note totaled. And what we're going to do on the final and beat of that second measure is we're going to go to a D major power chord. We're going to go from this G5 to the D major without moving that 3rd finger. See how it's locked down on the B string? This is more efficient than trying to replace all the fingers. With the 4-count lead in, let's do the first 2 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, see how I let that ring out for 7/8 of the 3rd measure. On the last 8th note of that 3rd measure, we're going to go to the A5 power chord, and we're going to do the same thing there that we did the E5 power chord. We're just barring the G and the D strings at the 2nd fret. Let's play the first 3 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. Right after 3, on the and beat, we're going to pick the open E string upwards and let it ring out as an 8th note. Just like this. And on 4, we're going to place the middle finger on the G note located on the E string at the 3rd fret. We're going to pick that down and let it ring out as a 1/4 note. So this is what we got in 4 and 4, and that completes the 4-measure pattern. With a 4-count lead in, let's go through this a few times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 4. This part is going to follow a 4-measure long pattern that's going to repeat itself 4 times. Each time we play the pattern, it's going to differ slightly towards the end. We're going to start out by placing the 3rd finger on the B string at the 15th fret. The first 3 notes that we play will be picked downwards, and we're going to bend that note up a full step each time like this. Those bends actually follow the lead vocals. Notice the last bend that we did, it was allowed to ring out. And when the bend was released, so the note was back at its original unbent position, the note sustained out without having to be picked a second time. Once we're back at that position, we're going to pick that note 2 more times. We'll go to the B string at the 12th fret with the first finger. We'll play that note once. We'll go to the G string with the first finger at the 12th fret. We're going to play that note once. Then we're going to place the third finger on the G string at the 14th fret. We're going to play that once. On all 4 passes through the pattern, we're going to do these notes so far exactly the same way. With the 4-count lead in, this is what we have. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, on the first pass through, you let this last note sustain out and give it a vibrato, but we're going to do it different on the other passes. We're going to go from this point in the first pass back to the note located on the B string at the 12th fret with the first finger. We'll pick it up. We're going to go right to the 15th fret with the third finger. We'll pick that note, bend it up a step, release the bend, then we're going to go back to the B string on the 12th fret with the first finger to finish up the first pass through. This last note is going to be played exactly the same on all 4 passes. With a 4-count lead in, this is what the first pass through is going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4. On the second pass through, when we get to this note on the G string at the 14th fret with the middle finger, we're not going to let it ring out and vibrato it. We're going to do a fill, which is mostly 8th notes right after it. The first one's going to be on the B string at the 12th fret, where we're going to place the middle or the first finger and play it 1 time. Then the middle finger will go to the G string at the 14th fret. We'll play that note once. We'll go to the G string at the 12th fret. We'll play that note once. This is what the first 3 notes are going to sound like. From there, we're going to place the third finger on the D string at the 14th fret. We'll play that note once, and then go back to the G string on the 12th fret. This is what the first 5 notes of the fill are going to sound like. And from this point, we're going to place the third finger back on the 14th fret of the G string. We're going to pick it, bend it up a step, release the bend, and then vibrato it. We'll finish up the second pass by going back to the B string on the 12th fret. With a 4-count lead in, this is what the second pass through is going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4. With a 4-count lead in, let's do the first 2 passes. 1, 2, 3, 4. On the third pass through, when we get to that note on the G string at the 14th fret with the middle finger, we're not going to let it sustain out or fill it. We're going to pick it, then we're going to do a series of bends and releases. We're only going to pick it once, and we're going to bend it up a step in pitch and release it several times like this. And after we get done bending it, we're going to pick it 1 last time and vibrato it. And of course, we're going to go back to that note on the B string at the 12th fret to finish out the third pass. This is what the third pass is going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth pass through is going to be an exact duplicate of the third. So with the 4-count lead in, let's do this entire process 1 time. Right from the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. This lead part is almost lost in the mix and barely heard in the background on the studio recording of the song. Since it wasn't notated on the authentic sheet music transcript that was used to learn it, this is a generalization of what has been pieced together by ear. Although it's in the background, there's no reason why it can't be brought out into the mix. It adds value to the song by including a detail that is already there. If there are two guitar players in the band covering it, this adds more quality to the sound than both parts playing the same supporting rhythm guitar part. The bass is going to play an 8-measure long pattern that will repeat itself one time. We're going to start out playing the first measure of the pattern by playing the open E string. We're going to pick it down on 1. And we're going to let it ring out as a quarter note. Then we'll pick it down on 2 and finish up the first measure by playing straight 8th notes. And we're going to use alternate picking after 2. And on the very last and beat of the measure right after 4, we're going to take the 3rd finger and place it on the 3rd fret. That's a G note. Okay, and this is going to be picked up. With the 4-count lead in, this is what the first measure is going to sound like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, we're using that 3rd finger for a reason which you'll see in a minute. We're going to let this note sustain out for the first 8th note of the next measure. In sheet music, there would actually be a tie tying these two notes together. It's basically absorbing the time value of that next 8th note, making it a quarter note. So we're going to pick that string up on the and beat right after 1. That accents with the bass drum. On 2, we're going to accent down, and that accents with the snare. So with the 4-count lead in, let's play it right up to that point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 2. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pick this down on the and beat right after 2. And when we pick it, we're going to slide to the 7th fret, a B note. Okay, that'll be on 3. We're not going to pick this note. It's going to be produced by the slide, just like this, in 3, 3, 3, 3, just like that. And once we get to it, we're going to pick this D note located on the A string at the 5th fret. We're going to pick that up on the and beat after 3. We'll go to the B note again, pick that down on 4. Then we'll finish up that 2nd measure by going back to the D note. These last 4 or 5 notes are 8th notes, and what we're doing there is accenting tightly with the bass drum and the snare. With the 4-count lead in, let's play these first 2 measures. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, at this point, we're going to let this D note sustain out and absorb the first 8th note of the next measure. Once again, you're going to have the note at the end of the last measure tied to the first note of the next measure. We're going to pick this with 3/8 notes, picked up, down, up, counted, and 2, and, just like this. And 2, and. Okay? And then from that point, we're going to shift down to the 2nd fret on that same string. We're going to pick this down on 3. We're going to pick the open string upwards on the and beat after 3. Just like this. And 2, and 3, and 2, and 3, and. And then on 4, you're going to place the middle finger on the G note again. You're going to pick this down, followed by the open A string again on the last and beat of that measure. You're going to pick that up. So this is what you're going to have for this the 3rd measure. And 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, with the 4 count, let's play the first 3 measures of this pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, now, in the 4th measure, what we're going to do is we're going to let that open A string sustain into the next 8th of the next measure. Once again, you're going to have 2 notes tied together. We're going to resume picking it on the upbeat after 1. Okay? It's going to be picked and 2 and 3. Just like this. And 2 and 3, and 2 and 3. Picked up, down, and 2 and 3. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pick the open E string up on the end beat after 3. And then we'll place the middle finger on the G note and pick this down on 4 and let it ring out as a quarter note. This finishes up the first 4 measures of the pattern. This is what we're going to have for that last measure. And 2 and 3 and 4. And 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, with the 4 count lead in, let's do the first 4 measures of this pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now that you know the first 4 measures of the pattern, the last 4 are going to be easy to figure out. The 5th, 6th, and 7th measures are going to be exact repeats of the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd measures. Only the 8th measure is going to differ. When we finish up the 7th measure, the A note is going to be sustaining, the open A string that is, just like we did at the end of the 3rd measure. We're going to pick the open A string upwards on the and beat directly after 1. On 2, we're going to place the 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the E string. We're going to play 2 8th notes counted 2 and picked down and up. We're going to go to the middle finger on the 2nd fret, which is the F sharp note. That's on 3. We're going to play 2 more 8th notes, picked down and up. And we're going to finish up the measure in the pattern by going to the F note located on the 1st fret with the 1st finger. This is going to be counted 4 and picked down up. This is what that last measure is going to sound like. It's going to be counted in 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. What we did there is we progressed chromatically so we could start the pattern over again on the open E string. We progressed from G back to E chromatically. With a 4 count lead in, let's do those last 4 measures one time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. With a 4 count lead in, let's run through the entire chorus as it appears on the album. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 2, 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. The chorus first appears at 1 minute and 13 seconds on your timer. It will resurface at 2 minutes and 41 seconds. It will appear for the final time at 3 minutes and 51 seconds, right after the guitar solo.